Hi, my name is Rob Scott from UC Today, bringing you all the news and conversation from the unified communications and collaboration space. So today I'm joined by VOSS, and we're going to be discussing taking the next step with Microsoft Teams calling. Welcome everybody.
Hi Rob.
Hi Rob.
Thanks for joining me. So before we get started today, however, I always like to start with a quick round of introductions. So a quick bio if possible. Tim, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thanks Rob. Tim Jalland, for my intro. I'm part of the VOSS team. I work as part of our global services organisation, and within that I'm the solution owner for our Microsoft Teams portfolio. As part of my role, I work regularly with customers and partners on day-to-day challenges they've got around deployment of collaboration solutions and our solution set around that. And looking today really just to share some of those experiences back with you, Rob.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And good to see you. Jami.
Thanks Rob. Yeah, my name's Jami Litherland. I also work with Tim at VOSS. I'm the solution owner for our assurance and analytics product line. I work closely with our customers, both enterprise and service providers, working closely with our sales teams and then our development teams to drive product innovation and go-to-market strategy for the assurance analytics product. I've been working in the industry for around about 10 years, selling various different software solutions and managed services.
Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for joining us both. And Jami, would you like just to give us a couple more minutes just on VOSS in terms of who they are, what they do?
Yeah, sure, of course. So VOSS are a privately owned software company headquartered out of Texas in the US. We've been around since 2004, very much focused in robotic process automation and sort of business communications management, specifically kind of born out of sort of Cisco traditional on-premise, but obviously now with the shift towards more cloud collaboration tools, we cover most vendors, whether or not that's traditional on-premise or cloud collaboration tools, and we have a product suite that can do fulfillment, assurance, analytics, reporting, accounting and migration, and I guess since we were founded, we've helped all of our customers manage, migrate and monitor millions of devices, saving them loads of time and loads of money in the process. So yeah, that's a little bit about us.
That's great, thank you. Okay, so Microsoft Teams continues to grow in popularity and the demand is ever increasing for features such as cloud calling and enterprise voice. So bringing all of this into a coherent plan or IT strategy is super important to enterprises right now. So to kick things off, I'm keen to hear from you, Tim, first. What's dominating customer conversations?
Thanks, Rob. I thought what I'd do is maybe just relay back a little the journey, because Microsoft Teams is out there in strength now within organisations. But if we look back a little, we've certainly saw obviously a trend towards remote and agile working for some time now. But the last 12 months has been an unprecedented push within organisations really to get people out of the office and working remotely. And I think all the organisations we see, they've found Microsoft Teams is readily available. It's in their license set, it's deployed on their desktops and the like, and they've used that for collaboration within the organisation. But it's been quite a push out over the last 12 months, and looking forward, I don't think the pace looks like it's going to slow. You hear a lot of people talk about modern working and hybrid scenarios and things like that. But within organisations, we see a measure now to try and bring a level of check or control around the somewhat chaos as organisations have pushed this out around their organisation. And off the back of that, really looking for a better tool set and better control panel, as we call it, to allow them to manage those types of solutions and scenarios, as they scale this up and work this out through their organisation. So that's what we're seeing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But sort of compounding that, the ground rules are constantly changing, and more recently with enterprise voice and Teams calling, we've seen organisations asking, we've got Microsoft Teams deployed, how do I use that as my client now to make enterprise voice, telephony calls to other people outside the organisation? So that integration there is on organisations' minds. But at the same time, that they've got a certain amount of resources within the organisation to run these systems. They want to build this capability out, without adding a lot of risk or cost or timelines on the deployment. They want to get to benefits early. So all that wrapped up, we see organizations looking for a better way to go about managing Microsoft Teams and Teams calling particularly, and get a level of check and control around all that. So that's really the topic we're interested to explore today.
That's great. Thanks very much, Tim. And I certainly echo that from a cloud voice or enterprise voice perspective. It's certainly a trend we're seeing more and more. This dominating conversation, certainly around Microsoft Teams. So,
yeah.
Jami, over to you. Enterprise telephony and UC estates can be rather complex to manage. So how do IT folk know it's all up and running nowadays and working okay for its users?
Yeah, so it's an interesting point, Rob. So yeah, as a sort of, I guess, as everyone sort of realizes, you moving towards more of these kind of public cloud services is, moving away from traditional on-premise, in control, IT teams have visibility across the whole solution. They're now kind of at the whim of what's available from these vendors through their APIs or other data sets that they might provide. And then they've got to stitch that together with, other elements of the solution, whether or not it might be SBCs or on-premise collaboration tools like Crestron or video conferencing endpoints, which aren't going to go away with hybrid working or even remote working, especially when you need big meetings. So I guess from our side of things, the VOSS Assurance Suite is built on data ingestion and big data principles to take all of that data from the end-to-end sort of experience and solution. So, whether or not that is the MS Teams cloud in this instance and their API data taken with potentially an on-premise SBC that's doing the call routing, and then maybe, a hybrid video conferencing solution as well, we can stitch that together as well as the end user experience, whether or not that's a device like a laptop or a sort of DX80 Cisco device or a headset. We can take all of that information, put it in a single place, and give service providers as well as enterprises visibility of the performance of all of those different areas and put that together in a sort of end-to-end user experience. Now, that level of detail just gives that insight and control back to the IT teams and the stakeholders, the business units, the end users, whoever they need to have access can have access to that. Now, if you combine that with the flexibility of our platform in terms of being able to configure it to a user or a site level base with different policies for alarms, you then get into an interesting space that you can be very proactive about fixing that user experience on the platform and the solution and say, for example, I can see that we've got a bit of a bottleneck or a network issue here that is causing a site or user level issue, and so therefore we can give that insight back to those IT providers with the acceleration of sort of transformation to these cloud services and remote working environments, basically. So kind of gives them that control back and that visibility, which is the main thing. And also, what we see with our customers and our experience is, rather than spending loads of time fixing kind of reactive tickets and unplanned work to say, I really don't like Teams or whatever the collaboration tool is, it's not working properly, and then your IT team scrambling going, we're getting bad feedback. They're spending more time because they've got proactive data and insight into the performance of their solution end to end. They spend more time focused on delivering the business transformation goals as opposed to reactively dealing with unplanned work, outages, complaints, tickets, all that sort of unplanned sort of work and ticket information and issues that come to the IT operations team. So that's kind of where we see the value of our assurance suite, fitting in with this new transformation to these public cloud services, shall I say.
Fantastic. And last year, I think it was at UC Awards, you won Service Management of the Year in 2020. And one part I remember distinctively was around this kind of self-healing piece. This was maybe a new technology that you released. I'm not sure whether it was last year or the year before, but is that really a reality? How does that work?
Yeah, well, yeah. Thanks for winning. Thanks for bringing up that we were a award winner with you guys. Always appreciate that. Thank you. So yeah, it is very much something that we're heavily investing in and looking in. Basically, I think, you know, from we have a very unique um, sort of position in the market with our fulfillment, the VOSS for UC product, plus the assurance, the analytics, and the migration stuff. We have a suite of tools that allows us to integrate and automate a lot of the processes that people would do manually day to day. So, yeah, we would love to say that we're in, we'd got to this kind of AI ops kind of Terminator-esque machine type environment that could do it all, and you don't know no humans need to do anything. But the reality is that even with the most advanced machine learning algorithms and AI, you still need that level of human interaction. So from our side particularly, what we're looking at the moment is the ability to detect issues, repeatable day-to-day issues, build in automation and scripts within our products that allows for that detection, recognition of that issue, and then a response procedure that then allows us to fix that issue without the intervention of an engineer and that manual handover process between user to engineer or service ticket person, and all those things take time. Whereas the more of that we can automate through that, so integration into ServiceNow is an example from an ITSM tool perspective. You detect the issue, you raise a ticket, you make somebody aware of it. Our systems can then look to initiate a response procedure based on the development with the customer of what they want as how to solve that they again solved, and then it's a notification to the users to say, hey, we've gone away and solved this, are you happy with it? They kind of sign it off, tickets closed, and it's kind of zero touch intervention from an engineer, or minimal intervention from somebody of authority within the service desk to say, hey, look, that's been solved. Hopefully proactively, but even if it's a reactive thing, then you're not spending more time escalating to your highly skilled, highly expensive resources to try and investigate and solve those issues. So yeah, it is, we're not quite there yet, but it's something we're investing in heavily, and something that we can and do today, basically.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and that zero touch or minimal touch is really essential in today's environments. As it's not. It just seems to get busier all the time. There's more channels, there's more things to go wrong. So the more you can automate, the better. So
Exactly.
interesting. So over to you, Tim, for another one. I wanted to kind of talk about administration and automation a little bit more in line with Microsoft Teams. How does that work from the kind of Teams angle?
Well, so maybe come back as organisations are rolling Teams out through their organisation and starting to add enterprise voice in here. To date, they've really, I'd call it more of a technical rollout, and it's used some of the inherent Microsoft tools that are available, so the portal itself, but increasingly some of the PowerShell scripts and things like that, and that's got the service out in organisations and people are using that. But increasingly now we see, as we mentioned earlier on, organisations wanting to bring this back into their normal IT day-to-day processes and ways of working, and looking at sort of regular moves, adds and changes that go on in organisations, as they scale that up, wanting to simplify that somewhat, they want to run those sorts of things through the normal service desk, and for that, we're seeing increasing need for a single place to go, or a single pane of glass on a portal, as we call it, single place to go, where it's quite intuitive, simple, easy to find changes within that type of environment, and then execute those from a service desk perspective. As an example on there, that might be as simple as finding a user, upgrading their license, and then adding Teams telephony on there, for example, with a telephone number and the like. So we certainly see that aspect on there, whether it's driven off the portal and it's intuitive, through a workflow type environment, or if they want to make a similar level of changes in bulk, for that matter, when we're rolling out bulk telephony through a particular site, for example, and bringing that online, looking for a better tool set and single point or single pane of glass to go to. But the other side on that, just on the administration and automation side, as this scales up and starts to get more complex, as we're bringing more componentry, as we call it, into the solution, to support enterprise voice and Teams calling. So talking about some of the infrastructure side here, the telephone numbers, the breakouts onto the public telephone network. You want to take that complexity away somewhat and inherently build that back in the system. And again, drive that out from a nice workflow on the front end, and that's what we're looking to do on the automations, on the administration side, and then back that up with quite a high level of automation, so that as a service desk agent enables a user for Teams telephony, in this example, it's automatically configured across the end-to-end solution for them.
Yeah, and imagine Microsoft being a multi-vendor environment that can get really complex. That single pane of glass can be, I imagine, a bit of a dream when it comes to administrating all these different products and endpoints and servers and that kind of thing. So, in terms of these organisations, they've got teams everywhere. I mean, are you able to delegate some of this control to teams lower down, or do the IT admins have to kind of control everything from kind of, I suppose, the mothership?
From the from the sort of main service desk, I suppose. Increasingly, we see that within organisations. Organisations want to balance some things they want to run centrally, so that might be, for example, the provisioning of a new range of telephony numbers for the organisation. But increasingly, they want to push a level of delegation or control out to local administrators. So the example I use is if we're configuring up a call queue, for example, which is distributing incoming calls across a range of team members in the organisation. You might well want to push that level of control and administration down into a site or a site administrator where that team resides, and allow the site or the departmental administrator to add and remove people out of the team. So that sounds quite straightforward, but there's quite a lot of inherent capability behind that to manage access control around that. So you've got a good level of control in terms of what local administrators can do on the self-service front, and obviously you need a good level of audit trailing and rollback. Should something go wrong, which inevitably it's in some circumstances you do need to roll back, or you just need an audit trail through what's been provisioned locally. So that all comes inside what we call the self-service capability, and it's really designed to try and push the administration out to the point where it's needed within an organisation.
Yeah, I think that's really key. I mean, onboarding and I suppose adoption of these solutions is really key as well, isn't it? All part of it. I mean, how does VOSS help, especially Microsoft Teams environments, kind of, migrate onto the calling element and kind of make all that a lot easier?
It is. I think that's a key point, Rob, on here. And everybody talks about the end result and getting onto the cloud and the benefits when you get up there. Certainly, we've worked with quite a lot of organisations that have been somewhat battered, on the journey up to the cloud. So it's important that journey. Again, it's smooth and it's error free. We manage the risk, within that. So it's somewhat of a process to step through to get an organisation from where they are right now, which is inherently, on a set of local systems, and migrate them off that up onto the cloud. And inevitably that's going to be a series of stages. You can't take a large organisation and move them overnight, so we tend to phase that. But we do go through essentially a process or a set of steps to try and provide some rigour around that. And the first part really is around the discovery side. So we're working with an organisation and looking inside what they've currently got deployed around the collaboration and telephony side and extracting some of that information out. We'll often then validate that and transform that with a set of rules to essentially automate the process of getting that organisation up onto the cloud. So we've got quite a nice tool set to do that. And then finally, we'll schedule that within the organisation. As I mentioned, organisations want to run this on a batch schedule typically, so they've got a set of sites on a certain time they want to move those, so we'll prepare the work on that and then batch move them on a particular time or calendar event for them. So that's the sort of process we go through, and it's really designed to help organisations get up onto the cloud service, up onto Teams, and particularly onto Teams telephony, without a lot of risk or cost in there. So that's the process, and it is an important part of the equation, Rob. you want to get them on the cloud, but you end up battered along the way. That's not a great experience for you. That's what we look to help with.
Well, I can only imagine, and with Microsoft numbers nowadays just going up and up and up all the time, there must be some huge deployments happening. So I can imagine the onboarding process is somewhat complex if you don't have the right tools in place. So.
Yeah, it is. Especially, if you're going to run that across several geographies and sites, on a global basis with numbering plans worldwide, quite challenging. And again, that's back to the tooling and sort of a robust approach on that.
Absolutely. And more work from home users, right? I mean, so that means how many different locations have organisations got? I mean, that must have increased, massively. So.
Significantly.
Great stuff. Okay, Jami, over to you for my final question. So, it's all up and running now. How do IT managers really, manage these environments ongoing? What kinds of insights does VOSS software offer?
Yeah, so Rob, it's a really interesting point to finish on actually, because I guess it's not changed that much from, transformations at any time in a period when we're talking about technology, right? It's all good and well, IT teams and stakeholders planning, hey, we're going to move to this great new technology, and they kind of might talk to a few users and say, oh yeah, what do you think? Yeah, fantastic, principle, it's going to help us. But the reality is I think we all know, and most enterprises or even anybody who's been in the industry will know that actually that adoption training period, that kind of feedback loop of how's it being used, what are our users experiencing over the first 6 to 12 months, or even just continuous, really is really important. So we've talked about the sort of performance side of things and the assurance side. We then have our reporting and analytics product that gives insight to not only the IT teams but the business stakeholders as well, whether or not it's business units or individual team managers or the users themselves, that say, how are you using the new collaboration tool? Are you missing calls? Are you top talk? Are you still dialing into collaboration meetings as opposed to using the headset that we spent X amount of dollars on and sent to you? Are you using the right operating system? Is your, Wi-Fi set up correctly? All of the sort of pain points that everybody experiences, our solution can give insight and data into those areas so that IT teams can help users improve their experience and actually become more familiar with the tools, because we all know the things that kill these types of projects within companies and make them go on and on and on and invest more money and time into them is when your users aren't using the tools that they're provided, because they say, this doesn't work correctly, it's wrong. And so we go beyond just the information that's provided in the MS Teams. As I said before, we stitch together all the data from the entire end-to-end experience and give that to the users. So the IT teams get that as well. But what the power of combining assurance analytics with VOSS VOC, for example, is we can give business context data. So you don't need to be a qualified engineer to understand that data. You can just be a normal business stakeholder, and they can have either access to the self-service portal to look at those reports and pull reports themselves off for their senior meetings, or that can be fully automated and sent to them, and it arrives monthly, so that they can get checkpoints through the transformation to understand how their users are using it, why and if their productivity might be down, or are they missing certain calls, do they need to change their processes. It just gives the business those data points to be able to make informed decisions rather than completely subjective decisions, which I think is kind of what the whole world wants now. We're so used to information at our fingertips instantaneously that our kind of personal life and having access on iPhones and different devices, that's what they want from their kind of enterprise services and collaboration tools, and that's what we provide.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, certainly it sounds like VOSS offers an end-to-end solution here from all kind of experiences, from user experience to team experience to kind of business experience, ultimately, and IT experience for managing this whole thing. So very, very cool. Love this conversations. Jami, for anyone looking to kind of follow up on this and find out more about VOSS and how they can help, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so best way, we've got loads of great new content on our website. So just go there. There's obviously get in touch contact form and loads of other downloadable content. And obviously, that'll make its way to Tim, myself, or one of the team. So yeah, that's the best way to get in touch.
Great. Hey, Jami and Tim, it's been super speaking to you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Rob. It's been great.
Thanks, Rob.
And that's it from us. If you've enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to UC Today News and give this video a quick share on social, as it's always appreciated. And if you're a UC fan and want to be part of the conversation, you can join us using the UC News hashtag on LinkedIn, Twitter and Facebook, and our social links in the description. So I'm Rob Scott from UC Today. Thanks for watching.